והרע בעיניך עשיתי למען תצדק בדבריך. So I did evil in your eyes, והרע בעיניך עשיתי. Why? למען תצדק בדבריך. So that you should be right. So that you should be just and right. That your judgment should be right. So what does that mean? King David, it's like he's telling God, I only sinned before you. I did something evil for you so that you... So let's see. Look, what the Gemara says like this. Amar David lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Maybe it's
King David told God, Galia ve'yadia kamach, it's known before you, King David said to God, that if I really wanted to, if I wanted to subdue my evil inclination, I could have done it.
Right?
I could have held myself back. I could have passed your test. So why didn't he do it? He says, I purposefully failed. It's like King David purposefully failed the test. Why?
So everything can be fulfilled, I guess.
So that people don't say that the servant triumphed over his master. Because God already said, like, oh, you want to be tested? Fine, I'm going to test you so bad, you're going to fail. So King David purposefully failed so that God wouldn't look bad. And that's the meaning of that verse, that strange verse in Psalms where King David says, hey, God, I only did this evil for you so that you wouldn't be embarrassed that I outsmarted you.
No.
Right?
No.
In which part? The verse in Tehillim or the verse in the Gemara?
If I did, well then, so be it.
והרע בעיניך עשיתי, למען תצדק בדבריך, תזכה בשפטיך. So I only did it so that you'd be right, so that what you said would come to pass. I did this evil for you.
There you go.
Yeah, it's 51, Psalm 51, verse 6. Psalm 51, verse 6. So it's like he did it for God. David says, I could have surpassed, I could have held myself back, I could have fought down my Yetzer Hara, my evil inclination, but I didn't for your sake. And the Gemara continues and says, why? Like, what's going on here? What was the reason that David and Bathsheba even had this happen? And the Gemara says like this, Darash Rabba,
sounds a bit like Tamar too.
a different verse. In Psalm 38, King David said, Ki ani letzela nachon umachovi negdi tamid. There's a double entendre here. Tzela can mean like that he is, tzela means a side, but where does the word tzela first appear in the Torah? With the rib of Adam and Eve. So this was an allusion to Adam and Eve. And so the Gemara continues and says, Reuya aita Bathsheba bat Eliam, that Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, was destined leDavid misheshet yamei bereshit. She was destined for King David since creation.
Right?
Bathsheba was King David's soulmate.
And I'm here.
He was meant to be with her. That's why he couldn't hold himself back from her. They were meant to be together. They were going to be together anyways. No, we'll talk about how many wives he had. We'll talk about that. So she was his soulmate since creation. Bathsheba was King David's soulmate. And we know that from that Gzera Shava, from the fact that there's this exact same unique word used that doesn't appear that many times really in Tanakh, Tzela, which refers to the rib or the side from which Eve was made from Adam. So the Gemara here is implying that Adam and Eve and David and Bathsheba, there's a connection there, and that King David was destined to be with Bathsheba since creation, that they were meant to be, that they were soulmates. Ella b'sheba alav b'michov, but she came to him through pain. That's what the rest of the verse in Psalms is saying. V'chentana devei Rabbi Ishmael, and it was taught in the school of Rabbi Ishmael. Reuya aita leDavid Bathsheba bat Eliam. She was for sure destined for him, and she was his soulmate. But what happened was Ella she'achla pega, that he consumed the fig too soon. So Bathsheba also in Hebrew is the name of a fig. It's a species of fig. It's mentioned in the Gemara and the Mishnah.
Have you ever been Tammy?
So King David ate the fig too soon. He was going to be with her anyways. They were destined to be with her. He was destined to be with her anyways. But he ate the fig too soon. And again, why is fig important to you? Yes. But why is the fig important? The choice of words is perfect. It's precise. because of the fig leaf, right? Adam and Eve, when they sinned, whatever that meant, it says that they covered themselves up with fig leaves. And Bathsheba is the name of a species of fig. So again, there's a connection here. Both the tzela, the rib, the fig, these are all allusions to going back to the Garden of Eden.
Like flowers.
Right, exactly. We know that the Arizal says, we mentioned this last time, that consuming the forbidden fruit of Adam and Eve, what does that mean? The Arizal says it really just means that they were intimate with each other and they didn't wait. They should have waited till Shabbat and they rushed into it and then they were ashamed.
That's trying to help it.
That's right. I'm going to get to that as well. So we said last time, right, that Adam is Adam David Mashiach, that it's the same. The Aleph Daled Mem Adam stands for Adam David Mashiach. It's the same kind of soul coming back in three bodies. So the sin of Adam and Eve was not waiting. The sin of David and Bathsheba was also not waiting for their time. Uriah would have died anyways in battle. He was already in battle. He would have died anyways. And then she would have been free. She would have been automatically divorced. She would have been free to marry David. And all of this could have been avoided. So they just rushed into things. But they were meant to be. They were soulmates. So now the next question is, if they were meant to be soulmates, why weren't they married from the beginning? Like, what happened? Why did Bathsheba marry Uriah? Where did he come from? And why did King David have other wives? Because he had Michal. His first wife was the daughter of King Saul, the princess, Michal. So why did King David marry Michal? And why did Bathsheba marry Uriah? Why couldn't they just be together from the beginning? What happened? Anybody know this story? Where does it go back to?
Like Tamar and Judah?
Right. So it says in the first book of Shmuel, when King David fought Goliath, you remember Goliath was this scary big giant, and none of the Israelites wanted to fight him. And young little King David came, and who was just like checking up on his brothers, he came and said, "What's the big deal? Why are you guys afraid of this guy?" He's like, "I'll kill him." I'm like, no problem. Right? So he went and he used a slingshot, and he hit Goliath in the head. Goliath fell over. And then King David went to decapitate him, to chop off his head.
Damn.
And he needed a sword. King David didn't have a sword. He just had his slingshot. And really, Goliath was so big, you needed to kill him with his own sword. You needed Goliath's sword to decapitate Goliath.
Well, of course.
So the verse says, "Vayarot David vayamod el Plishti," that King David ran to the Plishti, to the Philistine, to Goliath, veikach et charbo, and he took his sword, veishlefa mita'ara, and he removed it from its scabbard.
Oh,
why does the Torah mention? We know that there's no superfluous word in Tanakh.
No.
It says that he
What's
took
that?
his sword,
Is that evil?
but then it
Or
also
is that
says that
good,
he
people?
removed it from
That's all
its
we need
sheath
to know.
or whatever. Why mention these words? And it says,
Why?
"Veichod ba et rosho," and then he decapitated him. But why does the Tanakh, that's always very terse and doesn't spare extra words, why does it mention the superfluous two words, "Veishlefa mita'ara"? So the Midrash, in a few places, says that there's something special here. So I'm quoting from the Kli Yakar. There's two Kli Yakars. There's an Ashkenazi Kli Yakar and there's a Sephardi Kli Yakar. So the Ashkenazi Kli Yakar is Rav Shlomo Ephraim of Lunchitz, and then there's a Sephardi Kli Yakar who's Rav Shmuel Laniado. They live roughly around the same, not long from each other. But they're both called Kli Yakar. Probably they didn't know about each other. And so there was an Ashkenaz Kli Yakar and there's a Sephardi Kli Yakar. So the Sephardi Kli Yakar says like this: "Veishlefa mita'ara." What is this? What is the point of these two extra words? Ramaz lema shamru Chazal. So he's saying it's what our sages already said in the Midrash. Sha'ita sogeret u'mesugeret. His sword, Goliath's sword, was locked up and had a special knot that nobody could untie. Be'ein potech ota. Nobody could open it to unsheathed the sword. And the Philistine, Goliath's attendant, was the only one who knew how to untie the knot and to remove the sword. David, and King David said that he would give him So King David told the attendant, "Hey, if you open the sword for me, if you give me the sword, I will give you, the best bride, the best girl in Israel for you." And so God got really upset at him, right? God got really mad. He says, "Who are you little David, to be distributing the girls of Israel, right? What are you now? That's my job, right? I decide who gets to marry who. God got mad at King David and said, okay, you want to distribute girls? You have no permission to distribute girls, so you can only give your own girl. Your Bathsheba will go to him. You just gave away your own soulmate to this guy.
Man.
Which also explains why he's called Uriah a Hitti. Hitti means the Hittites. The Hittites were one of the Canaanite tribes. They were one of the 7 Canaanite tribes. So there's a debate in rabbinic texts. Was Uriah a Jew, like an Israelite? Or was he a Hittite? Like, did he convert? Or was he a Jew that lived with the Hittim? So based on this Midrash, he was one of the Canaanites that was with Goliath. And then he joined over to the Jewish side, and then he became one of King David's soldiers and whatever. But he was originally a Canaanite, Hittite,
crazy.
who would have converted and married Bathsheba. So that's what happened. So all of this, the Kli Yakar says that Uriah was the Noseh HaTzinah, that he was the arms bearer of Goliath. Uriah was the arms bearer of Goliath, and therefore